Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another wonderful Minecraft discussion. I am Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and I am here to help you become the boss of your thoughts so that you can live your very best life. I mean, after all, there goes Giovanni. After all, this is not a dress rehearsal, right? We keep saying it. This is the big game. This is it. You know, it's really time. It's time to, if you haven't been already, to really enjoy your life minutes. Save as many as possible and enjoy them and savor them. Savor is another good Minecraft word. If you guys can see that amazing beaver pond back there. It's so gorgeous. And there's another one that I just walked by to get here. And I have to tell you, I saw salamanders snuggling. I didn't know they did that. I mean, I knew they did that. I just didn't know they did it like that, like in the traditional sense. But hey, good for them, right? Speaking of what we're going to talk today, is about, you know, gratitude. So I'm grateful for the salamanders. I'm quite sure they're grateful for each other. And we're going to talk about gratitude as a shield. You know, we've been doing a lot of, you know, talking about anxiety, and we talked about worry last time, and I've given you a few party tricks. So for those of you who are just joining, I'm a little bit of a wild hair day here apparently. Those of you who haven't seen, you know, the episodes on the earlier ones about the party tricks, you might want to go back and look at those. So yet another defense, actually, and that actually makes me think of a club that I run at Champlain where I teach. You all know how much I love it there. It's just a great place. I run a club called Defense Against the Dark Arts, and it's been very popular, which is very cool because you know, college students really want and need to talk about stuff, you know, especially during the Rona situation, but even in general, just in general. And so the gratitude shield, gratitude is one of the many topics that we discuss in Defense Against the Dark Arts and also in Minecraft. And so you might be thinking, oh, here she goes, touchy-feely, touchy-feely. No, man, I'm all about the neurons. I mean, you can make it touchy-feely if you want to, but I'm talking about neurological change. I'm talking about rewiring the brain, really, truly getting the neurons to do what you want them to do, much like we have to redirect a toddler to you know, to sort of get the desired behavior, the desired outcome, so that they're happy and healthy and well adjusted. It's really not different. And neurons are sort of like wayward 2-year-olds. And so the gratitude thing is just so important, because when talking about anxiety, if somebody's really truly committed to being grateful in that moment, there isn't, I mean, like 100%, not even like 97, there isn't any room to be afraid or anxious or any of that stuff. And so it actually can act like a shield. And we've also been talking a lot about practicing, and how what we practice we inevitably get good at, which is true. You know, again, American Sign Language, line dancing. We talked about, you know, robbing banks, cracking safes. We can get good at anything we really set our minds to it. And it takes, just like a good parent, again, it takes, first of all, to get it. And I know in the 12-step programs, and I don't usually speak in bumper sticker, but they have some really good one-liners. And I remember from being around AA with a recovering parent growing up, one of the good ones was, you know, like when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. So when you get sick and tired of living in that head with all the what if thinking, what if this, what if that, what if I lose my job, what if I don't find another one, what if I don't, you know, ever end up with a partner, what if I can't make enough money when I get out of college, what if, whatever. And we get sick and tired of listening to ourselves, or if we're, you know, self-deprecating, get sick and tired of, you know, the lengthy litany of all the ways to not be enough, and we just don't want to live in that head anymore, you know. And unlike being, you know, outside of our head, we can get in a car and drive away. We can go outside for a walk. There's no running from your thoughts. So it's very important to just like throw the reins on them, just like you would a horse. Horses are powerful, and so is anxiety, right? And so to steer it in the right direction. And anybody who knows who's ridden a horse, I actually got thrown off once. Maybe that's not the best example for me. But they're this powerful, beautiful animal. But when steered by the person riding the horse, then all that power, even though the person on riding the horse is less powerful, right? All that power can be channeled. So it's really kind of a good analogy. I'm actually pretty happy with that because that was spontaneous. Okay, so gratitude. So this means we have to say first, and then we're talking about a gratitude journal. I am grateful for. The word is so powerful. And Marty Seligman, one of my faves, came up with the idea of a gratitude journal years ago. He's the father of positive psychology, by the way. Very nice man. I love him. I also love how he's so open with his depression, and he's just a really good person. I've had the pleasure of meeting and seeing and being on a committee with for a little while now. He's just awesome. So the gratitude journal, I just changed it a little bit for my students because to make it so that they would actually do it. And so I just shortened it a little bit. But if you Google that, you can do the whole thing with the feelings afterwards. Mine is simple. And this is what I do myself. I have for years. You want to get a gratitude journal. It can be anything from the dollar store. It can be an old notebook you have laying around. You might rip out the pages that you used it, whatever you used it for. And it's so important that it's every single day, because we talked about that habit thing. About 21 days on average for a habit to shift, because habits aren't broken, they just shift. And so the idea, if you want to shift out of being a negative Nelly, we want to develop the gratitude shield, and we have to do that daily. Doesn't mean you can't miss one, better not to. But here's what I do, and here's what my students do. I do 3 and they do 1. I write down 3 things I'm grateful for every single day. Holidays, leap year, every single day. And it's I am grateful for. Those words are so important neurologically speaking. If we just say, my dog, my partner, the hot tea I had this morning, that's good, but it's not great, to be honest with you, because the neurons need super clear direction, again, just like the 2-year-old analogy we've been using through the episode. So I am grateful for my dog. I am grateful for my partner. I am grateful for the hot tea I had this morning. And I do this every single day. After about 21 days, it'll get easier. It gets easier and easier and easier. And make it a part of your lifestyle. Cultivate gratitude. This is also a word that I really love, and it may be because I'm in Vermont, because it makes me think of farms with deep, rich, black dirt that's just so nutritious. And I think of, growth and harvest. And this is all true with gratitude, because when we actually commit to this, before you know it, 21-day mark, but before that, you will not even be aware that your brain, which loves patterns, the brain loves patterns, will be aware, you won't even be aware probably, that your brain is automatically seeking out the positive, because the brain is very actually easily rewired. It takes being committed, and it takes effort. So like a good parent, there's got to be follow through. I remember one of our kids was in 8th grade, and she's watching, she knows who she is, and she got a little fresh, which was not like her actually. And so of course there were some warnings and a talk, and then it was again, and there's another talk, and then the 3rd time, and I said, if one more mouthy moment, and you will not be going to your friend's sleepover, okay? And there was another mouthy moment, and so she wasn't going to her friend's sleepover. And as hard as that was for me, and us, it was mostly me, my husband was supportive, as hard as that was for me to do, because she's so sweet, she's not usually mouthy, and this was one of her closest friends, and blah, 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 I had to stick to my guns, because otherwise it's like being a teacher up at a chalkboard or whiteboard or whatever, writing on there for your students, do not listen to me, with exclamation points, actually teaching them to not listen to you. And I came home, and she had vacuumed the house, she was pulling out all the stops, and she had kind of started packing her bag like she was going to go. I said, where are you going? Well, I'm going to this friend's sleepover. I said, no, you're not, honey. I love you, positive, 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 and hopefully you'll learn from this, blah, 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 and you're not going. And that also stopped the mouthy. Stopped the mouthy. And the thing is, with the brain, as hard as it can be, as much effort as it takes, we've got to be that loving parent, right? Because being loving means to give your child or whomever you're loving what they need, not what they want. I mean, the wanting stuff is a bonus, but to really give them what they need is the most important. Obviously, that's what being a good parent is about, largely. And we're certainly not judging, because being a parent is the most wonderful, challenging job in the world. And we've got to be that good parent to our brain, which means giving ourselves what we need, not necessarily what we want. And the gratitude thing, is just, I can't say enough about what a shield it is. It's a defense against the dark arts such as anxiety and depression, because when we're genuinely full of what we already have, it's just amazing how much it just repels fear and anxiety and all these feelings of not being enough. Like, I just can't tell you. And truth here, we can see brain activity on an fMRI. So I'm sure everybody knows what an MRI is. Is that like really suffocating, claustrophobic, coffin-like thing that you lay in if you have ligament damage or all different kinds of things. An fMRI is entirely different. It has a little F, and well, it's usually italicized, which means functional fMRI, and it tracks brain activity. The busiest parts of the brain light up with all the colors, and we can actually see changes in the brain. We can see them happen, which means we can see somebody becoming more positive, more grateful. We can absolutely see it. And so we also talked about the cut grass paths, right? Earlier, 3 hiking paths. So if you can picture a tall weeds with maybe some pricker bushes, ticks. I'm out here with I'm surrounded by ticks. It's okay, we're covered. And whatever, and then you got a middle level one with tall grass, pretty tall grass, maybe a few snakes, ick. And then we've got this short kind of putting green path you could walk on with flip-flops or bare feet. Well, here's the thing. The brain, anyone's brain, is wired for lazy. And also, like a 2-year-old, it wants what it wants when it wants it. So if your cut grass path, your putting green path, is negativity, first of all, not to judge yourself, I would say be grateful that you're aware now, because once we're aware, then we have the responsibility, Dr. Dave, quote. And so now at least you know. And so expect that it's going to be a little bit of an uphill lift, because your brain is so used to going that direction with the negative thoughts. It's kind of like being in a neighborhood, noticing the White House with the golden retriever and the big oak tree, or whatever, or that your favorite cafe. So it's used to that. So it's going to be a little bit more of a heavy lift. So it's very important to practice this gratitude every single day, and also to have your gratitude journal close. So that would be the 20-second rule, which is research demonstrated that if we're trying to increase a desirable behavior or decrease an undesirable behavior, it seems like 20 seconds is the mark to make it easier for ourselves or harder for ourselves. So with the gratitude journal, as I mentioned, I keep mine on the windowsill of our bedroom, so I have to literally walk out the door, and to walk out the door, I go right past it. So that's just so easy. I rarely miss. I also have a pen wedged in there to make it super, super, super easy. Again, what's so cool is once you get off on this, it's like running or anything else, you make a habit. If you do skip a day, you're like, oh no, like it bothers you. It actually bothers you, and the benefits will happen so quickly. I'll also share a story with you about a student ages ago, probably 8 or 10 years ago, and she was commuting. She was living home, and she was commuting, and she was just a wonderful young lady. She was missing for one class. She didn't miss anything ever, so I was like, oh, that's strange for her, because she was there early and everything. Then she missed another class, and I thought, wow. So I reached out to her, and as it turns out, her dad had a heart attack, and she wasn't that old. I don't think he was that old. I think he was in his 40s, if I remember correctly. And he was in ICU. It was a bad, 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 bad heart attack. Almost took him away from this earth. And she shared the story with her classmates and myself about she described him as being like a real macho guy. And I'm just telling you what she said. I'm not getting into all that, gender stuff. But she described her dad as this really kind of like an old salt Vermonter, very macho, didn't show a lot of emotion, certainly didn't cry. And she said she went to visit him after she was allowed to, after he got out of ICU, and they almost lost him. And she's just crazy about her dad. And she said he was lying there in bed, and apparently she'd been sharing about the class at the dinner table, and she'd been sharing about the gratitude journal and what it had been doing for her, and I didn't even know any of that till this minute. And it's just great with her dad, her mom, and her I think her brothers. And she said her very macho dad was lying there, and he had a tear going down the side of his cheek. And he asked her, he said, what was that book you were telling me about that you write in about being grateful? And then she said, oh my Dad, that's my gratitude journal. And he said, yeah, I've noticed all the, how that's how good that is for you, and that you're happier. And he said a bunch of other things, and this was just quite a moment. You could hear a pin drop in Kansas in that classroom. And so, long story short, he asked her to get him one, and wow, what a powerful story. And I hope, take from that we don't want to wait for that to happen, right? We don't want to wait for that to happen to to sort of be committed to our own happiness, because happiness is a choice, to be committed to it. And gratitude is a straight road to happiness. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a grateful day.